Hey guys, insight number 3. Now we're talking here about symbols of Christ and their purpose, and we're going to cover, I think, 6 of them, specifically that were in the tabernacle. So I'm going to ramble through them. I'm going to give you what they are, the scriptures that they come from, the purpose they had in the tabernacle, and then how it relates to Christ. I will also type this up in the notes that go with this, so if you're furiously scribbling with a pencil, it's recorded there as well, so you can just listen and have a look at the post later if you want the information. Okay, but there are many symbols here in the chapters, and we're just going to look at 6 of them, their purpose and how they represent Christ, okay? So the first is the Ark of the Covenant, because we already mentioned that. That is the mercy seat, that is where Jesus dwelt in the tabernacle. Now you find that in Exodus 25, 10 to 11, and 16 to 22. These verses mostly come from the Lord's instructions on how to build the tabernacle rather than this week's reading. And I know that might seem counterintuitive, but I just wanted to go to the actual source of the Lord saying this, right? Okay. So this is the place where God could dwell, is the Ark of the Covenant. Now he wasn't always there, but he was often there. And if you read through, there's a time when the Lord dwelt there, and even Moses couldn't go in. It was like, no, I'm dwelling here, I'm doing whatever I need to do. Whatever he did, I made it sacred, made it home, gave it a blessing. I don't know. It's not recorded there. But, they could see that the Lord was there often and continued to lead them, as you will see, and as we go through these next weeks, because next week we're into Numbers and then Deuteronomy, and it goes into the rest of the Israelites' journey through the wilderness to the Promised Land. So we'll see that cloud, that fire, that cloud or smoke or the fire, whatever you want to call it, that whatever it looked like, that led them, was still Christ leading them. So that did dwell in the tabernacle, but it also led them. So when they had to move, of course, they pack up the tabernacle and move on. So there you go. All right. Yes. So this is the throne. This is the purpose of Christ in this. This is the throne, the mercy seat, the actual atonement. That's what it's representative of. This is where you came to say, pour out everything and be like, forgive me and help me be better. This is the part where Christ fills in the rest that you just are always going to never meet, right? It's just never going to happen. But you don't have to, because he meets it, which is really awesome and really cool. And who don't want to see the Ark of the Covenant, y'all? Awesome. I want to so see that. Touch it, that history in it. Oh, it's going to be beautiful. It's got to be somewhere around. Probably up with Enoch and hanging out safe. I don't know. Anyway, okay. The other thing is showbread. So showbread consisted of like 12 little loaves that would sit on a golden stand. There's like measurements and all that for that. And you'll find that in Exodus 25, 23 to 25 and verse 30. So this is a reminder of a providing God, or a provident God, or a God that would not let you go without. And as far as how they represent Christ, that's the bread of life. And that's Christ is the bread of life. He is the giver of life, the everything, right? We get new life because of him. Much like, living water. Christ is represented by a lot of these things that make a lot of sense in our daily lives, that we still have, that they had back then, that they have now, that we understand. That's our nourishment, our goodness, the water and the bread. That's why we have them in sacrament. Making sense? All filling in, puzzles coming together. Let's look next at the lampstand. Now that's in Exodus 25, 31 to 33, 37 and 40. That was to give light to the tabernacle. And that's representative of Christ, because he is the light. See? The light. Light of Christ. He is the light. The only one to dispel the darkness. The only one to light up and bring hope and joy and goodness in the future. That's him. So that was there. Now there's an altar for sacrifice, because there's 2 altars in here. Altar for sacrifice. Now that's Exodus 27, 1 to 4. And that was to make sacrifices for sin. And they brought various animals for that. There was different, and in there is described which animal you bring for which sin. Made sense in some reason. Again, if you want to deep dive it, go do it. I don't need to. That's not information I need. The way that this represents Christ is that the lamb is symbolic of Jesus, and this is commonly put out there, that the lamb like a baby lamb, perfect lamb, same they have for the Passover, is representative of Jesus Christ. The next one you've got is the altar of incense. So this is in Exodus 30, 1-10. So this is prayers ascending to heaven. This is what it sort of was the purpose of it, the way to look. Plus, you're in the desert, it's probably a bit stinky, so incense would have made it smell a bit nicer. It's probably going to make it a more pleasant environment. Can't imagine them bathing often. I'll give that, I don't know. But it's also representative of, as far as Jesus Christ goes, intercessor or mediator, the go-between, and that's what he is between us and Heavenly Father and Heavenly Mother and God in heaven, and so Jesus Christ is that. He is the go-between, the mediator, intercessor. He steps in, fills in what we couldn't meet, speaks on our behalf, defends us, all those kind of things. That's what that's representative of. And then there's a laver, which there's no actual measurements given for this, so we don't know how big it was. But this is found in Exodus 30, 18-21, and it was washing before approaching God. So that would also remind us today that, how do you go to the temple? Do you turn up from the beach in a bikini? No. You generally have a shower, put on church clothes. It's not always possible. Excuse me. Sometimes when you're traveling, you turn up with what you have. And, that's okay too. But generally, you come home from work or wherever you plan a temple date. If the kids are at school, when you're going during the day, you plan a temple date, you put on nicer clothes, you're all showered and clean, and you go. Before you meet God. Like, it's going to meet someone important. You want to put that best impression there, right? Excuse me, guys. Representative of Christ, because he's the cleanser of sin. That's why. Same kind of thing. So, following Christ's instructions brought symbols, teaching the Israelites to form that relationship with Christ. So yes, these are all symbols, but it was all about teaching them to have that relationship with Christ, because they just didn't. And we have other symbols now that do that, and other ordinances, and we've got how much material do we have access to that teaches us about a relationship with Christ? We've got scriptures, we've got their experiences that they had. We have online tutorials, we've got church websites, we've got, we get to go to Sunday school, we get to read, the Leahona magazine. There's so many different resources that we can learn from, books from our Quorum of the 12 and our other leaders. We can learn from them about how to have a relationship with Christ. Now, you got to remember the Israelites did not have that. So they needed these ways. This way was how they learned. Most of them didn't even read. So, they needed sight things, symbolic things that they could learn to have that relationship with Christ with. So, don't be overwhelmed by the symbolism. Really don't. Just break it down and take each thing for what it is. Don't be too scared of it. Now, Gordon B. Hinckley said, the temple is a symbol of strength, a haven of peace, a sanctuary of service, a fountain of truth, a house of covenants. And I love that because it's the same then as it was now, that quote. Symbol of strength, a haven of peace, a sanctuary of service, a fountain of truth, a house of covenants. So keep that in mind because it's beautiful, and aren't we grateful? Aren't you grateful that we have temples all over the world, and more all the time? It's pretty cool, right? Pretty cool. All right, stay around. We're going to get into Leviticus. I'll see you there.